over the years, we've gotten a lot of requests for, we hear a lot of people basically say to us, I have trouble with drums, don't know how to create good drum tracks, don't know how to work with drum tracks. And then one of the things we hear a lot related to sonar is people have questions about how to tighten up drums, how to work with AudioSnap. That's a big question we get a lot. And we're actually going to work with AudioSnap quite a bit in this webinar here for with CakeTV Live this time. What other topics are we going to talk about?
Well, we're going to mix drums. So we're going to look at the Pro channel and mix some drums. We're going to look at parallel compression and routing. But first, before we do that, we're also going to look at how to set up a project to mix drums with a folder and kind of, you know, just the structure of naming tracks and getting things routed to appropriate buses. So kind of a start to finish, mixing, editing, fixing the timing of drums.
Right.
And a few extra tricks too.
Yeah, and we're also going to be talking about a little bit of matrix, but a lot of mixing techniques as we go along here. So what we've got is, let's talk about the hardware. Let's talk about what we're doing. People always end up asking us what we're using here, so let's just get that out of the way real quickly. So in the studio here in Burbank, center staging, Roland offices, we have obviously Sonar X1D running with an HP computer. They've provided this nice big monitor for us and everything. We're running a VS700C console. We have a 700R audio interface, also an Octacapture, which we happen to be using right now. We are using an A800 Pro. We're using the M48 Roland Live Personal Mixer system so that we can all hear each other. We're going to have a special guest come in and play some percussion parts. That's how all that works out. And some various phones and tablets and things so we can communicate with the outside world.
And we've had a few questions in the past about what this miniature keyboard is up here on our A800 Pro.
Yeah.
It's an HP. Do you know the model number of this guy?
I don't. I could try to tear it off, but it is a little HP keyboard.
Miniature HP keyboard, mini keys. It's battery powered. I can't imagine there's more than one model, so I guess just look up, you know, miniature HP keyboard.
And it works great.
Try to get a model number later on, maybe throw it on the forums for you guys. Yeah, and we got a couple of personal Samsung Galaxy Notes we're running here for various purposes. We got some questions coming in and things like that. And I did want to mention the last couple webinars, we were monitoring the chat right here from the demo. Going to be a little different this time. We've got Robin Kelly off-site who's going to kind of monitor the chat for you guys. So please ask him the questions. What up, Robin? Ask him the questions in the chat if you will. He'll relay them to me, and then we'll hopefully get to as many as we can. So do ask questions.
Yeah. All right. So maybe we should begin.
Yeah.
So what we've got here in Sonar, and you can take a look at the interface now. We've got about 13 drum tracks, and this is the kind of thing you would generally get sent if you were recording drums elsewhere or you're mixing a project for somebody else. In this case, what we have is these are live acoustic drums recorded in a, I think it's sort of a studio that's kind of like a barn or on a farm or something, which we'll talk to Jimmy Landry a little bit more later about this. But these tracks are, you know, recorded with mics. It's an acoustic kit, so you have all the bleed and all the things you get with acoustic drums. Also the natural feel of a drummer. And all we've done is gone through, and the tempo was at, believe it or not, oddly enough, 91.21 for whatever reason, and that is the tempo of the project. So you can see here that we've got our kick track, snare top, snare bottom, hi-hat, ride, toms. So Seth and I just did a little setup on this project, and all we did basically was just name our tracks, put in some little icons for kicks and snares and things, and really this whole time we're going to be working with the track view and the console view, and that's pretty much it. Maybe a few other little things.
Little matrix view thing later on.
Little matrix view. So use the D key to open and close the multi-dock, and so we've got that. And so let's go ahead and start working with it. So the first thing we really want to talk about is project setup, is about how to get organized and everything. And when you're mixing anything, but especially when you're mixing drums and you have all these overhead mics and things, it's really important to organize your workspace and get everything laid out the way you need to, because it makes your life a lot easier later on. The more organized you can be, the better off you'll be. So what's the first thing we should do here, Seth, do you think, in getting organized?
Probably the first thing we should do is maybe throw these all into a folder.
Okay.
Maybe a drum folder.
That's a great idea.
Probably the first thing I would do.
So we'll just go ahead and select all these tracks and right-click and say Move to Folder, move to a new folder, and we'll call this, amazingly, drums. Now, why would we do this? Well, the good thing is for later when we're dealing with things, other instruments and things, we'll have the drums all nicely in a folder, and we can solo, we can mute the entire folder together, we can record enable it or what have you. So that's what we're going to be doing there. Another hotkey you're going to see me using a lot is Shift F, which is just to fit everything to screen. So it's a common hotkey we use. And we'll try to just keep you abreast of all those things as we go along. Any other individual settings we've got here that might be of interest to anybody? I don't think so.
Maybe not settings. I think the next thing I'd probably do is jump into creating some buses. Because we
Right.
know we've got, you can see we've got a snare top and a snare bottom. You can see
Right.
we've got some overheads and some rooms. So we're not going to start mixing right away. We know we kind of want to set up a bus structure
Right.
to get us going.
So buses, another question we get a lot. What are buses? What are they used for? How are they useful? Well, you're going to get a pretty big lesson in busing this time. Now, since we have a lot of tracks, I'm just going to lower the gain of my master by, we talked about this last time about gain staging. I'm going to bring it down by about -6, which seemed to work, just so we're not overloading this master bus with all these tracks, and we can adjust as we go. But so now we need to create some buses, and the buses are how we're going to sort of organize the drums from an audio standpoint into these sort of stems that we can use. So. And we're going to do some pretty advanced busing techniques. We're going to do parallel compression, all kinds of things. So this might seem like a very complex bus structure, and it kind of is, but this gives you an idea of what you can do with buses and why they're so important. And it's invaluable to get a great drum mix.
And in fact, we just had a question come in asking about what we're doing with our gain staging. Now, you just saw Brandon turn down the input trim on our master bus by -6. That's just to give us a little bit more headroom in the overall mix. We don't really have any gain staging set up on a per track basis or per bus basis. We're going to get to that as we actually get to mixing. So everything's just at Unity right now, which is just means the default settings for the volume faders and for the input trim and all that.
Yeah, and we'll get to some more. I turned my preview bus down a little bit so as we preview tracks, whatever. We also have like a fat fader for our master, narrow, and the other ones. Just an aesthetic thing. It makes it a little easier to see what the master fader is. So the first thing we're going to do is insert a bus, and let's call this one drums master. So what this means is that this is going to be the drum bus that is kind of the final. This is going to be kind of the final bus. So all the drums are eventually going to end up in this channel right here, regardless of other things, and you'll see what that means in a second. So let's do another one, and this one is going to be what should we do next?
How about just drums?
Drums, right, okay.
Because we're going to have two buses, a drums bus and a parallel compression
Right,
bus.
so we've got a kind of regular drum bus, and then we have one that's for parallel compression. So we're going to set up a parallel compression bus. So what's going to happen here is that this will be kind of our sort of uncompressed drum sound. This will be our compressed drum sound, and this will be our final master drum sound.
So we're actually routing those two buses into the drum master bus.
Correct, and you'll see that a little more later, and we'll set up our routing in a second. Then we're going to make a kick bus. So in a lot of cases, you have more than one kick, whether it's a kick-in, kick-out mic, or you might have electronic and acoustic kicks together, which we actually will end up with eventually here. Same thing with snares, that kind of thing. So we're going to make a kick bus, and so we've created that. Then we're going to create a snare bus because we have snare top, snare bottom mics, and we want all those to go into one bus. We also have overheads. Now, these drums were recorded in a studio, all mono into whatever DAW, but they come all as mono tracks. So we have overhead left and overhead right. So one way to deal with that is just to set up an overhead bus, and same thing with the room mics. We're going to make room so that those individual tracks go into these individual buses, okay? Now let's route everything. Time to route?
Time to route.
Okay, and we're going to use the quick grouping here, which is going to be kind of nice. So our kick, let's go ahead and route our kick instead of to the master bus. So this is our master bus. Generally, a lot of people route things right to the master bus, but having these sort of buses over here, very important. So we're going to route the kick to, amazingly, the kick bus. The snares, and I'm going to select both of them just by dragging across, and I'm going to hold control, because this is quick grouping, and I'm going to route these two to the snare bus.
And that quick grouping will work for any control.
Any control at all. Hi-hat, we're just going to route this into the regular drums.
Yeah.
Okay, because this doesn't need its own special bus. Ride cymbal, again, just into our regular drums. Toms, Oh, we didn't make our tom bus.
Let's make a tom bus.
Let's make a tom bus, because we have 3 toms, and it'd be nice if we can shape them all together. So if we're going to make a bus of toms. And to move a bus, because I'd like to actually put this over where the kick and snare were, we can hold Alt and just go ahead and move that over. So that's a nice little trick that some of you may not know, how to move buses and arrange them. So we're going to take all 3 of these toms, and we'll go ahead and just hold Control again, which routes all of those over to the tom bus. Overheads, same thing. Let's route those into the overhead bus. Rooms, route those into the room. And also the in-room, which we actually, I don't think might end up using, but we'll route that into the room as well.
Just in case, yeah.
So now all that routing is done. So all of our tracks now are going into the proper buses, but now we have to route our buses to the proper areas. So basically what needs to happen is that our kick bus needs to go into drums master. Is that how we were doing it?
Just drums.
Just drums.
Just drums.
Just drums, because that's all of our drums, right? And our snare going to go into drums.
Yep. In fact, I think everything's going into drums, and we'll create effect sends for the part
Right, exactly. So toms, overheads, everything's going into drums, all right?
Let's grab the drum bus, and we'll throw that into the drum bus master, the drum master.
Drum master, and the parallel compression into drum master, okay? So maybe some of you are a little confused because this is kind of complex routing, but this is really what it takes to get great drum sound. So what we've done is, again, we have a drum bus that kind of everything is going into, and all the uncompressed signals, kicks, snares, and everything. So to sort of back up, all the individual sounds are going into their own buses. Those buses are going into a drum bus. There's a parallel compression bus, which we're not using yet, and then everything goes into the drum master. So as it turns out, if I were playing and I were to just turn this down, all the drums would go down. You wouldn't hear any drums at all just by turning that down. That is our master bus for drums. These are all sub-buses for drums, okay? Everybody clear on that?
I think so.
Okay.
We do have one question, though,
Yeah.
about moving tracks. So we moved the console strip, the tom bus over, and the Bapu's asking if you can do the same thing with the tracks in the console view, and yes, you can. So just Alt-click in one of the track strips in the console view, and it should kind of highlight red, and you can see it's selected when it's highlighted red, and it'll move right over, back and forth. So yeah, just holding Alt and clicking is the key.
And the reason you can't just click and drag is because we have things like quick grouping where it's more often. You're less often are you actually moving things around. So we have that Alt button to kind of make it, you want to deliberately move those things, because not often are you probably swapping channels around a lot.
And in fact, another question's coming in asking if you can quick group buses, and yes, you can. You can absolutely quick group buses.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I could have grabbed and I probably should have grabbed these, held Control, put them all to drums. That would have been the way to do that. And then we could do things like icons, like load a bus icon, and maybe we go into drums, and maybe just put some drum kit icons in here. Well, actually, that's a kick, so we would probably load a kick. Kick drum, and then maybe snare drum. So there is some setup. It's not all making music isn't all fun and games all the time. Toms, let's do the toms. Find a tom icon, great. And maybe our overhead mics, we'll use like maybe some microphone type thing, right? Maybe for our room mics, we'll grab some other kind of mic. And drums master, maybe we'll use a drum kit. You can have custom icons. I just find that having the icons is it is helpful to sort of parse and see what you're looking at. Yeah,
I do as well. It's sort of like an at-a-glance kind of thing instead of scanning for names or something like that. It's just maybe if you're a visual person, it's kind of easy to see. At a glance.
Is, and I mean, looking at these buses, we can easily see that these are kind of like the 3 main drum buses. This is drum master. This is our normal drums. This is our parallel compression, and these are the individual elements and microphones, kick, snare, toms, mics, and then you can see all the individual sounds over here. So, and I'm saving as we go along. Always important thing to do when you're working. Just save. What now? What should we do now?
Well, so we've got everything set up. We've
we should do some panning real quick.
Let's do some panning. Yeah, some initial panning.
Just some initial panning. This is just to get some things laid out. Like for instance, we have overhead left and overhead right. Really, these need to be panned left and panned right. Same thing with the rooms, because these might be, if depending on the DAW or how they were recorded, they might be stereo tracks. These are individual mono tracks, so we're going to go ahead and pan them left and right because that's how they need to be.
Yeah, the other things like hi-hat, ride cymbal, we'll kind of wait to to mess with those in the, in the panning later on.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's maybe
that's set up, right?
Yeah. So it's all set up. Maybe let's have a listen. Let's kind of see what we got, and then maybe do some editing. Maybe find the spots we want to keep. Figure out if there's something we want to throw away.
Okay. So this kind of starts at. We've actually set this out at about where everything's starting on measure 5. You'll hear a little count in. Let's just play a little bit. And just moving forward, you can hear up here we've got some other parts. Big open hi-hat part over here. I think there's like a ride section in here somewhere. Maybe over here. There we go. Little doubled part. So that's what we basically have going on with the drums. So
we did have one question actually coming in before we move
Sure.
on and actually do some editing and cutting some parts out. So one of you guys asked if you can save all that routing and stuff as a track template.
You can, yeah, absolutely. In fact, you could actually select, and in fact, all we'd have to do is...
Or a project template, or a track template.
Right,
Any kind of template.
Right. Let me actually move this in-room mic into our folder, which we didn't do before. Move to folder. For some reason it got left behind. Yeah, what you could do is just select the folder, which would select all the tracks, right-click, save as a track template. And what it would do is it wouldn't save the drums, the data, because you wouldn't want that,
Right.
but it would save all the tracks, and it would save all of the routing, the bussing, any effects. I mean, you could even go as far as wait till later when you've got a bunch of effects and routing and things going on, and actually save it that way. So you'd have a ton of stuff going on. So
It'll even save all the track icons, all the little laborious setup things.
yeah, so, all that stuff you could save as I mean, I'm a big track. I never go talking about track templates. I think, but they save so much time, and that whole creativity killing thing that people associate with computers and DAWs is so much because people are duplicating work over and over and over again. And just do it once, save it as a template, and use templates. It's really great. So yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's kind of maybe pare this project down just a little bit to maybe something more manageable, something we're going to work with.
Yeah,
show off a little editing.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a drummer just playing for a long time, and we don't really want all this stuff, and especially for our purposes here, we only want some pieces of it, because in this drum production, we're going to kind of take this, and this isn't really going to be a rock song. The intention for this kind of at the end, and we won't go through everything beyond drums, is not really to have it be a rock song necessarily. It's really to be maybe a little more kind of modern pop with an acoustic feel, but maybe a little electrified, which gives it that larger than life drums idea. So we're going to get rid of some things, keep some things, and we're going to tighten up some timing and just kind of, I guess just pare it down to what we think we need. So first thing we're going to do is we decided that there's a section here with some kind of real open hi-hat thing. I think it's, where is it?
That's 23.
This thing. That's a lot of open hi-hat. So I think what I'd like to do is actually just get rid of that. So we're going to take these kind of 10 measures where this is going on, and we'll actually select all of our tracks. So now we have everything selected, all 13 tracks, 23 to 33. And I'm going to use the edit delete function. And why am I going to do that? Because there's a little function here called delete whole. And what that will do is move all this stuff over once this area is deleted. So ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
So there it goes. So now we'll listen to this transition here. So it got rid of all that open hi-hat section, which just isn't going to work for us for this, okay? So we've done that. But there was a pretty cool little fill that happened right before that I'd actually like to have back again.
Let's bring it back.
So what we'll do is, let's just close up this folder a little bit since we don't need to do this. So I'm going to select the first track, select the last track, hit Shift.
It'll select everything in between,
It selects everything in between, fold back a measure, do the same thing on these, fold back one measure, and let's see what we have now. Okay, much better. obviously, this is totally dependent upon what you want to do with your song, what you think you need, but this is what we're doing here. I'm just trying to keep this a little cleaner. We got the closed hi-hat part, we want the part with the rides, a couple of fills, and nothing else, okay? Because I think we need something just a little straighter and more simple. So, we've done some arranging. What do you think we ought to do next, Seth?
Well, since, as Brandon mentioned, we're kind of just going to use parts of this to sort of get an idea going and flesh out a song. So let's maybe cut out some of the stuff we don't need at the end.
Okay.
I'm thinking, I think somewhere, yeah, right there, like at 31.
I think we decided, yeah, about 31. So I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to use S to split at 31.
That's Control A, right, to select everything?
Control A to select everything, S to split, Shift click all that stuff, delete.
Nice.
Gone. And this is what we're going to work with. This has all the material we basically need. And again, totally dependent on your material and what you want to do with all this. So we'll save it like that. And now if we hit Shift F, everything fits nicely there. And these are our parts with just one little edit right down the center. Okay? And in fact, if we were to, let's say, make a loop point or something, right? And go all the way to here. Make a selection. Shift L makes a loop point. Let's hear how that comes around. Okay, so we got a clean part. All right, turning off loop, L, these are key clusters, so I used Shift L to create the loop selection. I'm just going to use L to turn it off, and anytime I want to bring back that looped area, I can just hit L, and it comes back again. All right, maybe it's time to go start cleaning up this audio a little bit, do you think?
Yeah, let's maybe check out the timing and see if there's some points we need to maybe tighten a little bit, or maybe...
Okay, do that before we get into gating and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Okay. So here's the thing. So now we're going to get into some AudioSnap, and this is things a lot of people have asked for a long time. Fixing timing is what AudioSnap is for. And AudioSnap, you can do a lot of different things with it. You can apply grooves to other things, which we'll do. You can fix timing. You can change timing to be. You can do some creative things with timing. But one of the things it's able to do is when you're changing the timing of a live drum kit, you've got things like overhead mics and room mics. And what happens is if you hit a snare drum, that happens, let's say right here. But there's a distance that sound travels to the room mic. So the snare is here and the room mic is over here. And maybe the overheads are here. And there's all this bleed. And if you move the audio of one piece, you now have phase problems and sometimes synchronization problems because you need to move all of it with sample accuracy. Okay? Phase coherent timing shifting. So this is where AudioSnap comes in. So what we found when listening to this is that, okay, it's great that it's a live drummer and there's live drummer feel and you can keep as much of that as you want, but we want the flexibility later to be able to do some electronic stuff to this, maybe do some loops. Maybe it's not such a rock song, it's a little more straight tempo, even tempo, and we just want to really just tighten this up, okay? So we're going to use AudioSnap to do this.
And Brandon mentioned earlier on that the project is actually 91.21 BPM, and that's what the drums were recorded to. And we had a question coming in pertaining to that before we actually move ahead. Some folks were asking how the cuts were so clean, like there were no pops or clicks at the cutoff points. And I believe we've got the audio zero crossings setting set up. So
cut at zero crossings. Yeah, and the other thing too was we basically the drummer was pretty much on time. So we kind of shifted everything so it started about measure 5, made sure the first kick started at measure 5, and the timing kind of went on along that. So they're pretty clean. However, if you actually listen to a loop or something along with this, or the metronome, you'll actually hear that the timing does drift a bit. In fact, we thought it was tight until we started putting some loops to it and then realized, wow, actually there's quite a bit of drift. And you start to hear it. So, and you'll actually see how much when we go through and fix some of these things.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Let's dive in. So that's what
we're going to do some timing fixes, then we're also going to get into some, we're going to do some creative changes as well. So I'm going to select everything. Now, to get into working with AudioSnap, we select all the tracks that we want to work with. And we're going to change the edit filter to audio transients, but we want to hold control, just like the same as quick grouping, so that all the tracks change to audio transients at one time. So we've now changed all of them into basically AudioSnap mode. And then we can hit A to open up our AudioSnap palette. It says multi, so you know that this is now affecting all of the tracks that are associated. Now, a couple massively important tips if you're working with AudioSnap. With drums, both Seth and I have found that reducing the threshold to 0% is pretty important because depending on the drums, but otherwise you're going to miss little ghost hits. There's some faint things. So we found that it's much easier to, when you're working across many, many tracks at once and trying to fix timing of a bunch of things, to set your threshold to 0 so that it basically grabs everything.
And it defaults to 75.
Defaults to 75.
So yeah, just push it to the left to 0. All your transients.
Yeah. Other thresholds will work for various other things and maybe other instruments, but 0 for. Okay, so also the online algorithm. Now you might bounce this later, and if you bounce it, pick the radius, maybe one of the radius, ones, which would be great. But honestly, if you change your online algorithm to percussion, normally it's at default, which I think is
groove clip. I think.
Groove clip. Yeah. If you change it to percussion, when you move things, it will not time stretch it. It will cut it and move it, much like how like a Rex file works, I guess, right? So, and then here's another really important option. A lot of you may not know about the pool transient window. So what this means is that when you're clicking a transient and you double click transients, it shows. So when you double click a transient, it will grab all the other transients and all the other tracks, so you can move them together. How far outside of that initial transient it decides to pick is based on this window. How big is the window? So if I double click a transient, is it picking this one? Does it also include these? What is the window outside of that transient that it should grab other ones? The default is 50. We've found that for drums, a transient window of 100 to maybe 150 seems to work a lot better, because otherwise you're going to miss some transients, maybe some overhead mics or things that need to move. So this is a great an option to play around with and determine kind of what works best for what you're doing. We're going to work with 100 because this seems to work for these tracks. But so increasing your transient window, I find is, for most of the things I do with AudioSnap, it actually works better to increase it.
It does, yeah.
So that's at 100. So that's really all we need for the for this, and now we can start going and fixing things. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
A lot of times with drum tracks and things is that it's really the quarter notes that matter. So we're going to go through and fix some quarter notes. Now beat 5 comes in right away. It looks good. Sorry, measure 5, beat 1. And let's look at measure 5, beat 2. Now I'm going to change my snap to quarter notes, because this is really what we're trying to deal with is quarter notes here, all right? So in looking at this, this is a snare. If I want this snare to hit dead on 5-2 on the second beat, I've double clicked, and let me just zoom in a little bit. There's my fast zoom, there we go. And I'm just gonna grab this. We double click to grab them all and just move it. So now it falls. Now it was pretty much right on. That one. And you can see how the other mics are later, because there's a delay to the time it hits the mic, and you want those to stay the same.
And that's the window, the space in between the first hit and the room mic and all that. So that's why we changed it to 100, so it grabs.
That's right.
Grabs all those when you double click.
So I'm scrolling across here, and let's go to the third beat, and maybe, I think those look okay. Let's go to the fourth beat. And we're not going to get crazy with this because it's a demo, but I just want to make sure this makes a big difference in timing, in tightening things up. Now you see that measure 6, it's really early. The kick kind of comes in early, the snare is early. So again, double click the transient, verify that everything is selected, take the sound you want to fall on, kick, boom, everything falls right on. Okay, and you can do this with bass tracks or any kind of tracks. Again, it's kicks and snares. So what I'm doing is I'm making sure that the kicks and snares all fall in to where they need to. This beat looks okay. And yeah, some people might be saying, well, is there some automated way to do all this? Yeah, you could hit quantize, but it's probably not going to work. And really, I think if this is the drums for your song and you care about the music, the best thing really is to go through and just do this by hand, so that you can make sure, and sometimes there's no need to mess with the stuff kind of in between, because you really don't want to necessarily mess up the timing of, we want to keep some feel in this thing. Yeah,
it keeps a little natural groove, but you really want those downbeats on the measures to kind of lock in,
That's right. So like this
that's kind of what we're doing.
That snare is pretty much on. I'm just looking for the stuff that's just kind of like wildly off. How's these looking? Like 8-2. So this snare is like a slightly late. And how tight you want it to be, all matter of taste.
Yep.
It really depends on the kind of music you're doing, those kinds of things. So let's see, go to 8.4. And again, you know, this may not be particularly sexy to watch, but it's really important, and it's how you can take drum tracks and really make them fit the music. And obviously, I'm sure some of you come across, see, here's a snare, measure 9. This is just too late.
Yep.
So again, double click everything, make sure everything is coming in.
And again, because everything's moving relative, because they're all selected, it's preserving that phase coherence.
Yes.
As you snap these over.
That's right.
To the marker.
So this snare was a little early. I'm going to move it back a little bit. And you know, these are things that also, you know, this applies to other sounds too. Like you could work with bass or what have you. But it's pretty easy once you get the hang of it. It's pretty easy to go through and just make these changes. By the way, I'm using the fast zoom. I'm using my mouse wheel and control to scroll across. So I'm able to double click. I'm just kind of keeping my hand. See, that was a very late, that was a very early hit. And so let's see. And then like 11, this kick drum's way late. So, or way early. So just pull that over. And I'm just going to keep doing this for a little bit. We thought, well, we could do this ahead of time, but then we thought, well, maybe it's good for people to see this process, because this is the real, unadulterated, you know, this is what happens. This is what you have to do in music production sometimes these days. So again, these are way early.
Yeah.
This would have sounded way out of sync. So we'll just drag this snare over. And this is where we noticed some real problems, was around measures 11 and 12. It was okay when we were listening to it by itself, but as soon as you start combining it with other things, it started to feel really out of time.
And another big point too in mentioning quantizing by hand versus, say, selecting every transient and quantizing the whole thing. Let's say you do select all the transients, quantize all of the drums. Now you're destroying the phase coherency, because as you can see in Sonar, where the room mics and the overheads and all the mics are slightly off because they're farther away they're spaced away from each other. When you quantize those and they're all together, now you've got phase coherency problems. The room mics sound like they're right on top of the hits.
And Seth, maybe you could talk a little bit about what is a phase coherency problem?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you've got, say, the close mic, for example, on, let's say, a kick drum. So you've got the kick starting at a certain point, and you've got other microphones that are farther away. It takes time for that sound to reach that microphone. So it captures sort of a distant sound of the kick. And so they're offset, they're off in time. The waveforms sync up, but they're off in time. And if you move those and put them on top of each other, the waveforms actually are off time, or offset, if you will. So what would happen is you'll get these sort of garbly artifacts. Is kind of what can happen when they phase on top of each other. And we're preserving all that by doing this manually, keeping the timing of the relative tracks, the relative hits together. We just had a question come in asking about the different algorithms, and that's a great question. So there's two types of algorithms. There are the online algorithms, which are sort of like low CPU. They don't use a lot of processing power, and those are used to process in real time. And there's two different algorithms. There's the groove clip algorithm, which is the default algorithm, and that's designed to work on kind of any material that's not percussive, maybe like a piano loop or a bass loop, guitar loop, a vocal loop, something like that. And what that algorithm does, it is actually stretches the audio in between the markers. Now, we don't want to stretch these drum sounds, we just want to move them, and that's what the percussion algorithm does. It actually doesn't stretch the audio, it just takes those transients and just moves them over without stretching what's before it or behind it. So when you're using drums or percussion or things like that with AudioSnap, or groove clips, use the percussion algorithm. And then there are the offline algorithms, like the radius algorithms. Those are developed by Isotope. They're very high-end CPU intensive algorithms, so they're only available when you render your project, or if you bounce to a clip, or when you freeze a track. Anytime you render these tracks down to audio, it uses the offline algorithms. And there's a few different choices for drums. Probably there's like Radius Mix, and there's Radius Mix Advanced, and the Radius Mix Advanced algorithm has some phase coherency options in there, and there's also an algorithm for vocals, and I believe bass as well. So you'd want to set those for when you render. Now, honestly, What you might want to do if you're using drums here on your offline algorithm is choose percussion.
Yeah.
Just because it's, again, it doesn't stretch.
It's
going to
be as good as when you,
yeah.
because there's no, algorithms happening or anything. So.
Absolutely. So just a couple different kinds and different uses there.
So let's take a listen just real quick and see how this is sounding. Bring in the metronome.
So those downbeats are sounding pretty locked in.
Yeah,
I'd say, don't you think?
Yeah.
Nice.
Everything okay?
I'm not hearing any artifacts.
I'm not hearing any artifacts.
Yeah, that's.
No.
I mean, that's sounding totally natural, totally clean.
Yeah. So let's see. Yep. So our timing is great. So it's much tighter now. Okay, so now what we can do is we'll go ahead and let's go. Oh, let's just fix. We actually want to do something kind of creative. I think about measure 22, right?
Yeah.
So what we're going to do here is just zoom into this part, and we've got a section just where there's and maybe let's just do, for timing's sake, let's just do the second one, that kick drum that we have.
Yeah.
Okay, so here it goes, dun 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 dun, and wait, maybe it'd be nice if that hit was a little early, right?
Yeah,
it didn't go da da dun dun. It went da da dun dun.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, what we can do is, so this is more of a creative use of AudioSnap. Is let's change this to, I think, like 8th triplets. I think we decided, because it's kind of a triplet thing, and we don't want actually. Now see here, it's grabbed an audio transit. We don't want, and we can just go ahead and control click that so that one doesn't happen. And do we disable these? I think
you can.
Do we have to? I think we do. Yeah, so what happens is you can't move transients beyond other transients.
Right.
So we have 2 transients, we're going to need to move beyond these. So what you can do is just select them and disable them. This way now, when we grab these, we can move over further and listen to how this sounds. So totally different feel.
Yeah.
I'll undo real quick, you can hear the original. And then redo. So just kind of a different sound, you know? And then I think another thing we decided to do was maybe take this kick minus the hi-hat, right?
Yes.
And slide this over one as well. So we get like now it's gonna go. So now when we back up just a little bit, you'll hear how this kind of transition is a little nicer. So totally up to you, but this is where you can actually fiddle around with the timing and make some changes creatively, not just fixing timing, but actually changing the way these things actually sound, you know. So that's how AudioSnap works for these kinds of things.
Yeah, so we've got the technical timing issues we can take care of. We've got the creative stuff. We're going to take a quick break and get a very quick word from our sponsors.
Attention! Your first class upgrade is available. Buy Sonar X1 Essential. Get Sonar X1 Studio free. Buy Sonar X1 Studio. Get Sonar X1 Producer free. Buy Sonar X1 Producer. Get Sonar X1 Production Suite free. Buy Sonar X1 Production Suite. Get the PC4K S-Type channel compressor free. Enjoy your upgrade.
Okay, thank you, First Class Upgrade.
Thank you, Cakewalk, First
Welcome
Class
back.
Upgrade. Important to note that the First Class Upgrade, we're going to make an announcement right here and now. The First Class Upgrade has actually been extended through the end of July. So if you haven't already upgraded, or you're not a Sonar user and you haven't bought Sonar yet, now's a great time. I mean, basically what it lets you do is buy one version and we'll bump you up to the next one. So it's a huge thing.
And if you're an existing user, if you buy an upgrade, let's say to X1 Producer, you'll get X1 Production Suite.
Yeah,
so new versions, upgrades.
An Essential user, upgrade to Studio.
Yeah.
Now you're a Producer user.
Yeah.
So it's huge, and you're seeing a lot of these features that are available. And what we're going to be talking about a lot next is Pro Channel. And Pro Channel is a Producer exclusive, and it's the kind of thing you're going to have a Producer to use.
And speaking of the Pro Channel and upgrades, we've also got an adjacent upgrade promo going for the rest of this month. We've got a couple things going. You can buy a producer expanded for $10. Normally it's what, $50. You can buy this 20 for 20 deal. There's like 20 different upgrade things. There's I think like some video tutorials and session number 3 packs. Each of those are now $20. There's a couple other things too. The PC4K expander gate, or excuse me, the PCCL concrete limiter pro channel module, $50, normally $80. That's going on through the end of June. So first class upgrade and that stuff as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a quick question coming in before we get to mixing the tracks here. What is the mixer behind you to your right?
That is a M480. We're actually using an M300. They're made by Roland. They're generally for live sound. They're V-Mixer series. And they have react so that you're able to do things like connect to the M48 personal mixing system. So what we basically did, we're using the smaller one over there, the 300. So basically everything in this room, there's pianos and drums and everything, they all go into this, including sonar and everything. And then one Ethernet cable goes into this M48 personal mixer system, which there are around the room, and everybody can plug in headphones and hear everybody else. And also it can connect also, if you have a React driver for sonar, you can connect an Ethernet cable and track everything right into sonar. So that's what it is, and that's what we're using. So 400 is the bigger version, 300 is the smaller version, or 480 is the bigger version. Get my numbers right.
And yeah, we got another question coming in.
Okay.
Someone's asking, is there anything here that's not Roland? Pretty much no, except for a couple of personal touchscreen devices, the Asus transformer.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it.
So yeah, mad thanks to
everything.
Roland and RSG for all the gear. Of course the computer and monitors HP. But
yeah,
it's pretty much
HP
all
for the computers, and everything else is Roland and
audio
Cakewalk.
interfaces, control surfaces,
Yep.
live sound system, even the video recording gear.
Yeah, everything, all the video recording
RSG,
gear. Yeah, everything we're doing is the cameras are from other companies. But other than that, yeah, it's I would say like 85% of this whole thing is Roland gear.
Cool. So let's maybe get into some mixing.
Mixing and cleanup. Okay, so we have the pieces we want. The timing is good. The tracks are what we want, but they still don't sound good. We haven't really gotten even to mixing them yet. Now, the material sounds good kind of to begin with, but let me fix my mic a little bit. The material sounds pretty good to begin with, but we need to go ahead and clean it up and make sure that it's clean and proper. So first thing we're going to do is not really tonal shaping. We're going to do actual cleanup. So let's go into the mixing console, and we're going to work here in the console for this. So the kick, first thing we need to work with. We're going to open up the Pro channel. And in the Pro channel, first thing I want to do is bring up the, what do we want? We want the expander gate.
Expander gate, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to gate this kick. So I'm just going to solo it out. Let's take a listen, and let's actually get to the part we want. So I'm just going to start here at measure 5, hit D, back to my, and I'm going to, let me just turn off the metronome because we don't need the metronome. So you hear all that bleed. Well, here. So there's like little snare drums and stuff happening.
A lot of bleed going on, but that's okay.
So we're going to fix it. Yeah. So, and there is the Sonitis gate, which is a very advanced gate, can actually do a lot of stuff. You guys can use that, but we're going to use the Pro Channel PC4 expander gate. Turn it on, crank our range up to all the way, so it's gating at about 40, bring everything by 40 dB. Bring the threshold up a little bit. Just take a listen to this. Maybe -3. Okay, so that's what we got. What do you think?
Yeah, it's cutting. It's doing a little expansion, getting rid of maybe do a little AB. Let's hear how it sounds before.
Here's with it. That's without. With.
Yeah.
Night and day.
Yep, absolutely. We can work with that.
Yeah.
We can work
so
with
there
that.
You're getting with it off. You're getting all the crashes. You get on, turn it on.
Yep.
And you're just getting kicks. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So that's enough for the kick. And what else do we want to do then? We'll try to do a little low pass.
Yeah, maybe a little low pass filter.
So we're not really going to be tonally shaping here. We're just getting rid of the junk.
Yeah.
So on this, we're going to turn on. We're going to go use the E-type compressor because this is the one that has more surgical style. Great for drums, particularly. And first thing I'm going to do is do a little high pass at maybe like 20, just to get rid of any gunk down at the very, very bottom. Maybe a steep slope. maybe a 24 dB slope. And maybe we actually do a little low pass just to get rid of some stuff at the top too. So let's play this while we're happening.
And we could go in and dial in like the exact point of the low pass filter and any boosting and cutting, but just to get rid of some of that obvious high end junk.
So no Pro channel.
Yeah.
With Pro channel. Okay. So that takes care of that.
We're on our way.
Let's move over to the snare.
Real quick question before you do.
Yeah.
We got one of our 255 viewers asking if you can freeze the Pro channel, and of course the answer is yes. When you freeze a track, of course the Pro channel modules absolutely bake into the audio and freeze right with it.
Absolutely. So here's our, we have snare top and snare bottom, and I'm actually going to gate them independently. What kind of, let's see, what about maybe, what do you think?
Yeah, that sounded good. That's kind of, I mean, instantly right away. That's just way tighter, you know? It kills kind of that ring and some of the bleed.
There you're getting all those hi-hats and everything. Now we just get a snare drum. It's pretty quick, easy to work with. And again, EQ, let's put some EQ here. Let's go ahead and just grab like a high pass filter.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there, somewhere around here.
Yeah, maybe like 200-ish.
Yeah.
Just to get rid of the obvious low-end garble that we know is there. And we can dial again.
Without
we can
Pro
dial
channel.
in later.
So much cleaner.
Yep.
Okay. All right, and let's do the same thing to the snare bottom. So again, I'm just gonna drop in. I don't really need the tube right now. I'm just gonna remove this, and we'll insert the. And you can save presets for this stuff. We didn't ahead of time, but maybe you want to make a drum preset that's already set up like this, so you don't have to do what I did each time. And let's listen to this snare here. So, you know, how much of the little rolls you want to get rid of and stuff is really up to a matter of taste. And on this one, I'm also going to, again, dial in some high pass. Make it a little steeper. And use your ears, you know. Now, no Pro channel. So why are we doing this? I mean, to get rid of all these little extra things. The tighter your drums, the better they're going to sound in the whole mix, where you don't have all this kind of extra stuff going on. Now, these sounds are in the overheads and stuff, so depending on how much room mic and everything you're adding, it'll have more or less degree of goodness, whatever, you know, effect in the end. But if you end up with a tighter drum sound, where maybe you're doing not a lot of overhead or room mics, this is going to have a dramatic effect. Okay. So what else?
Let's maybe jump over to the hi-hat and just do some basic pass EQ on it.
So hi-hat's got a lot of stuff on it. So let's go ahead and grab our expander gate, drag it to the top, because the signal path goes from top to bottom.
Right.
Might want to bring our release.
Yeah, a little more. Maybe add a little more release, so the open hi-hats.
Oh yeah, we've got our open hi-hats there, don't we? Okay, so it's important. It's important to listen to that stuff. You're not going to be able to get rid of everything. And again, sometimes if you need even more detailed control, the Sonitis gate actually gives you some little extra controls and things. This is nice for fast gating, and it works great, and it's got the feel of the classic hardware, but you know, the other one also has some control. And then we obviously want to dump all the gunk down here for the hi-hat as well. So, because there's a lot of low end in that thing, and we don't need all that stuff. So we'll just turn on our high pass and turn that on. And why is my high pass not doing anything? Why? Is there a reason? Why is my high pass not doing anything?
Oh, the module's off.
Oh, there we go. Okay. There we go. So high pass control. So now we've got hi-hats way up here. So actually we can get rid of a lot of that snare and stuff just by moving up high and just keeping that hi-hat there. Okay? So hi-hat, now where? What do you think we ought to go to?
Last thing I think would maybe be the ride. Just a quick high pass on the ride.
Yeah. Now the ride, you might, you could decide to go edit the ride where it's only there in the track. But since it's in the other mics and everything, I think we might as well. We decided. I think we're just going to leave it there. So we'll again insert the gate.
I don't think we need to gate the ride.
Oh, we don't need to gate the ride.
Yeah, because those ride symbols have so much decay.
Yep.
We should probably just leave it. Maybe
we're
just
not going to want any
EQ
tube stuff. We probably won't even want to compress it. We'll just add a little bit of E-type EQ.
Yeah.
And just some high pass filtering. Let's take a listen here. And we actually need to get to a part where the ride exists.
Yep.
Where is the ride? Probably. There we go. Now remember, the ride is in the overheads, it's in the room mic, so you don't have to get too crazy, but just to get rid of that gunk down below. So we get a less boxy, sort of more, detailed sort of sound. Okay, so that's our cleanup there. How much further should we go?
Well, how about maybe just, what if we push the gloss button on the ride and the hi-hat?
Let's try that.
Yeah, have a listen. It's kind of like a special little instant high shelf.
It's subtle, but it adds a little bit of something. So let's do this on the let's do this here on the hi-hat as well.
Let's bring solo it in.
It just adds a little bit of
just a little top end.
It's very subtle.
Top end crisp.
All these things are really whatever your taste is. Okay.
Yeah. So all right, so we've kind of got everything. It's not mixed, obviously. We haven't like dialed in, resonances and tones and things like that. We kind of got it cleaned up. Just got rid of some of the low end and the high end that we don't want. So maybe we should do the same thing to the toms, the overheads, and the rooms, but on the bus level.
Right. Okay. So since we've got, let's look at the overheads. On the overheads, we've got everything on a bus. So we're going to go over here to the buses this time. And let's remove that. And we probably don't need saturation. This is what just happens to be in this project. We'll leave some compression because we'll get around to it. And let's put our EQ up here. Maybe again use the E-type. And let's listen to our overheads. Find a spot where we can. Okay, so here's our overhead mics. Just bring out some of that bottom. Because it's mostly cymbals, really, for overheads. I mean, again, so much depends on the sound you're going for. But a lot of times, if you want tight overheads, you want just for cymbals, go ahead and just pull some of this out, some of that low end out. And we should want to do the same for the room mics.
Yeah, let's do that for the rooms.
We'll go over to the room mics.
Yeah.
Again. Why I have a concrete limiter and a saturation knob. We'll get to those later. Pull the EQ up here. And again, let's listen to the rooms. A lot of low end in the rooms.
There is.
And you might want that, I think for our purposes. Let's just save it for some of that snare.
Yeah, if you pull some of the low end out in the rooms, I think that's gonna help us get a tighter, sort of punchier, dry kick drum later on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
As opposed to sort of that boomy. I think that's kind of the direction we want to go.
I agree. Okay, so we've got that. So we've done that. Maybe toms for time's sake we shouldn't maybe deal with right now.
Okay, that's no problem. I think though we do want to get to the. Did we do the snare?
The snare? No, we did not.
Let's jump over to the snare bus.
Okay, so this is our two snares together.
Yeah.
And so what we're going to want to do here is we can actually tighten these up a little bit more. And do you want to do? Did we do any gating on here? Do you want to just do some EQ?
Yeah, we did a little gate, and
let's insert a gate.
Let's throw a gate. Let's go ahead and replace that bus compressor with the PC76 Strat Comp 2.
Yeah.
The fast attack FET compressor. It'll sound nice on the snare bus.
So just soloing out the snare. We've already EQ'd it, so we don't really need to do any more there.
Yeah.
If you want to, you can actually tighten up the release or the gating just a little bit.
I mean, you could do a little EQing if you want to maybe add a little top or something.
Yeah. So actually, I think I decided that I wanted to add, and I'm going to use the E-type again here. It depends, but I think I want to just add a little sizzle. Maybe just a few dB.
Yeah.
Just add a little bit.
Yeah.
And the compression. Let's compress it. Make it pop a little bit. Hearing that sounds much better.
Yeah.
Fast attack.
Yep.
Go back to where we were. Use your ears. No pro channel. With pro channel. Sounds snappy.
A lot of crack. A lot of crack to the snare.
And you can always go back and, you know, how's that sounding? Now listening to that mix, those drums sound a lot better than they did before. Already. Now our drum master's getting pegged, so I'm just going to bring it down a little bit. Gain staging. Let's just give ourselves a little overhead, a little little overhead.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe it's a little too much.
So maybe next we'll maybe do a little work on the kick drum. Only this time, instead of the bus, maybe we'll work on the kick track.
Okay.
Let's jump back to the track, and I'm thinking maybe a little transient shaping.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not crazy about the kick sound right now. It needs some help. So we're going to go to the kick track itself, and I hit D to go back to the track view. I hit I to open up the inspector view. So now we can work on a channel strip right there. And yeah, this thing could use something. The tonality of the kick is just kind of, you know. It's not what you want for a modern production. It's just a little flubby. And usually dry kicks never are.
Right.
People here are surprised usually they hear just a dry kick that hasn't been processed. They don't sound that great.
No.
So let's go ahead and drag in. I'm going to go to the browser, and we'll go to our plugins. And I think we've got, let's see. Is it under Dynamics Transient Shaping? Let's grab the TS64.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And we'll drag it into the kick track, and up it goes, and we'll just use B to close out the browser. And the transient shaper, this is a very powerful thing for drums, hugely powerful for drums. And do you think we want to put this, we probably want to put this post all the stuff we did. Yeah, so this is going to be, the pro channel is going to be after, after this?
After this, yeah, because you'd want a transient shape first, I would think.
Yeah. So let's put the pro channel post. And then let's change the sound of this thing. Although we did do some gating, it would probably change our gate.
It would. So let's reverse it.
Let's reverse it because we're going to just clean up the kick, and because we haven't compressed it or anything yet. We'll do that afterwards on the kick bus. So here's our kick. I'm going to change the threshold a little bit. Now you'll notice I can make a slow attack. Fast attack's going to make it clickier. I don't want that. I want a thuddier kick. Turn on timbre. Wait. So this makes it much fatter. This would make it thinner, much fatter. High timbre, low timbre. We can take the decay longer or shorter. Shorter, I think, will get a tighter kick. Now we turn this off. So it's clickier, thuddier. Okay, can we hear that? And I think we should, I'll bring down the output gain a little bit. And I think we ought to, should we compress this, or let's wait until we get maybe another kick in here before we compress
let's
this.
wait.
So transient shape, just to
that.
change the tonality of the kick drum again, which I'm not still 100% thrilled with. This has done wonders to it, but I think we're going to need to do something in a second to make that even better.
And we do. And before we get into all that, I think we've got a special guest waiting for us.
We do.
Mr. Jimmy Landry is hanging out, so let's make sure we've got our hangout up and running with him.
Yeah. So Jimmy Landry can. He should pop in here at some point.
Let's go ahead and start and add him to the hangout.
I think he has been already.
Let's go ahead and start a new one.
But let's bring in
He just pinged me over over one of my chats here. Let's go ahead and start a new hangout.
He's going to pop in, and Jimmy Landry is our artist relations manager, and Jimmy does a lot of work with a lot of various artists and things. He's kind of our point person for artists. And he's a great guy. Yeah.
What up,
and
Jimmy?
here's Mr. Jimmy Landry. Hi, Jimmy.
Cutting in.
How are you?
Yeah. And this is our artist spotlight segment, and we are going to actually be doing this probably more often, bringing in Jimmy to talk about what's going on with Cakewalk artists, and also I might bring in some artists later on too in the future and actually have them join in the Google Hangouts and talk to us. So, so this is our artist spotlight segment. First time ever, first artist spotlight segment, and we'll be having more of these segments in the future. So thank you, Jimmy, for joining us. Where are you, Jimmy? Out in the New York area.
I am in New York, enjoying a balmy, sunny New York evening.
And you know, a lot of our viewers might not be as familiar with you as we are. Can you tell us a little bit maybe about your background as far as what you're doing musically and where you've been and what you've done?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Awesome.
I've been working for Cakewalk now, thankfully, for what's been 3.5 years. Before Cakewalk, I worked here in New York at Capitol Records, the record company, which is also Virgin, part of EMI. I was a staff producer, A&R guy, and songwriter and mixing engineer kind of rolled into one. So I was kind of a jack of all trades, I guess. I'd be the guy they call at 1 o'clock at night and say, we have to have a mix at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I'd be like, honey, I got to go. So I spent a lot of time doing that. And I was also in a couple bands that were signed to some labels before that, and kind of toggled back and forth between working for labels and also being an artist myself. And thankfully, I jumped off that ship and joined a winning team of Cakewalk.
And also, Jimmy, you've done quite a few blogs and things some of the viewers might have seen based on like the DIY stuff, room treatment, which actually we can see behind you, and
Yes.
building professional traps and things, bass traps and room treatment and things like that. So I know everybody enjoys those. So this is the guys, folks, if you've read the DIY blogs, Jimmy Landry, you're looking at him.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's such an important thing. We've all talked about it before, but I mean, you know, all the stuff that you guys are doing right now with the drums and everything, I think a lot of people can really build their own stuff now, and for relatively cheap. You should definitely check out the blog that I did. It's a 3-part blog, and you can kind of read in there. If you have any questions, my email's up there. Completely would like to help people out on that front as well.
And Jimmy, these drums, actually, we got these from you. And can you tell us just about where these drums were recorded? Because we talked about that, and then, you know, obviously we're dealing with the drums after the fact, and we don't have the luxury of going back, and sometimes different environments, you know, you have to fix some of this stuff. But can you just tell us about kind of roughly where and what kind of environment these drums are recorded in? First
of all, yeah, I'd love to also say that I think the gentleman who thinks that we should bump them up to 94.19995 to get better feel. That was a great comment. I love this webinar. I'm like,
we have a very clever and humorous user base.
I apologize for the people on recording these. These were recorded at Longview Farms, which is a kind of a live-in studio. I was fortunate enough to do a record there for about a month. This was a long time ago, not too long ago. I think it was back in like 2000, I don't know, 2001, 2002. It was with a band called the Winefield, and it's a great studio. It's one of those studios where you go there, you focus on music. You know, you write stuff on the fly if you want, you record, but it's all real deal, you know, microphones, real deal preamps, and great experience. A lot of horses, lots of cool stuff.
Very nice. Sounds like a nice environment.
It's up in Massachusetts, actually. Yeah, really cool place.
Hey, home of Cakewalk.
Back when people used to actually record in real studios.
Yeah. Back in those days. So now we all have our own real studios, right? But not often drum rooms and things. So thus this webinar. So Jimmy, maybe you could tell us. You've got a few things you wanted to tell the viewers about. It's going to be a quick segment, but you got some news about some Cakewalk professional artists and.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think for right now, for like just some updates, there's a band that and you guys know you've worked with them as well, that we've been really hot on. That's using our stuff called Hollywood Undead. Mm-hmm. They're on Octone A&M Records. They're in the studio right now with their 3rd record, you know, using a lot of stuff on the fly. They're actually really loving the new Zeta 2. That's going to be all over the record. Javier Colon, I think a lot of people probably recognize that name, Javier Colon. He was the winner of The Voice, the first Voice. He is actually still on Republic, but he's going to be putting out another record. I'm actually going up to his studio in Connecticut. He's using all Roland stuff. He's using a V Studio 700 actually to do his new EP, which is cool, right out of his house.
Okay.
He's a great guy. You should definitely check him out, javiercolon.com. And then after Javier, we have Doyle Donahue, which actually I just put a blog up tonight on Doyle Donahue.
Yeah, Doyle, who's done a lot of game scores and things like that, right? Very real big power user, uses a lot of MIDI.
Yeah, he's got a lot going on. He's doing a bunch of stuff right now. He's got a new video game that's coming out. You can check it out on the blog right now. There's a trailer that's up for Doyle that I just put up, that he just did everything in Sonar X1. And then there's another artist called TC Spitfire that's actually out there in Los Angeles with you guys. And he is Paul Oakenfold's main engineer and songwriter and composer. And he's in the middle of doing a bunch of stuff with Oakenfold right now. He's actually going to be doing a webinar with us in the future.
Yeah, we can have him. We'll actually have him here at Center Staging and talk with him. And then, and just quickly, Jimmy, the game that Doyle, just back to Doyle again, real quick. Are you able to mention what that is currently?
Yeah, actually, he's done a bunch of stuff with the Warhammer.
Warhammer, big franchise. Yeah.
Yeah. So he does all the music for that actually, and he's doing right now. Can't talk about the new name of the one that's on there now. But
okay.
He's doing all the Warhammer stuff, and then there's another one called that he just had. I just put it up, and it's escaping my mind actually. It's Worlds of
Battleships.
Yeah. World of Battleships. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just did a blog on that, or you're doing a blog on that?
Yeah, we just posted that actually.
Okay, so check out the Cakewalk blog for that.
That's blog.cakewalk.com for any of you guys who want to check it out.
Right, and so Doyle's doing all that stuff, and yeah, heavy MIDI. He's done some events with us and things like that.
You'll read on the blog that he's actually on this one that he just did. It's like I got a pretty good interview out of him of what he's using, and it's up to like literally 500 tracks.
Wow. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. Good. So he's heavy, and everything done in Sonar X1, right?
Yeah. I mean, he obviously uses other stuff as well, but everything. I mean, his
other synths and other.
Yeah.
But his main host.
He's a madman. I mean, people that know him laugh at him because he can write his name very quickly on the piano worldview.
Yeah, and just back to Javier Colon real quick. What is Javier up to right now?
He's doing an EP, so he's actually still on Republic, but he's going to be doing his own EP, and he's using actually the V Studio 700. He's got it in his home studio, and he's putting out a new single, so he's real active. He's doing a lot of live shows as well right now, but he's going to start getting back into the studio to record.
Yeah. Okay. Any other news to report?
No, I think that's those are the three big ones right now. That are there's obviously a whole bunch of other artists that we're working with, but those are for this week. Those are the guys that are doing some stuff right now.
Great. And in the future, we'll have some guys actually here where Seth and I are, some artists talking about some of their projects. We've got that planned. And next time in Artist Spotlight, we might actually bring some people to talk in the Google Hangouts as well and join us for the conversation.
Sure.
So our maiden voyage of Artist Spotlight on CakeTV Live is pretty successful. Okay, Jimmy, thanks for joining us.
Right on, you guys. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Jimmy.
See you later. All right. So that was our Artist Spotlight. So thank you, Jimmy, and check out the blog and more stuff from Jimmy and what's going on with artists. Okay, so back to what we're doing with drums.
Back to the previously recorded program.
So what we had done previously was we were basically just getting into the tonal shaping aspects of this, was getting these drums to actually sound good.
Right.
Sometimes things sound good, but they don't sound like a record, like a pro commercial record. That's when you start getting the really punchy, really nice, clean sound of drums, and that's what we're into basically right now. So. Should we get into some drum augmentation?
Yeah, let's do some drum augmentation.
Okay.
Sort of a modern drum production technique here.
What we want to do is be focused, because I was talking about how the kick's just not working for me for what we want creatively for this, and we also want to augment maybe the snare with some stuff. So should we bring up the DAD?
Yeah, let's bring up the DAD, aka drum augmentation device.
Yes, we have created a thing called the drum augmentation device. Who's your dad? And we'll go ahead and just drag this in. This is a track template, and what this track template gets us is basically an instance of Session Drummer 3 and just a couple of MIDI and a couple audio tracks. So what we did was we created this as, and you know, you guys can make your own too. This is a track template basically designed for kick and snare replacement. So it's basically a session drummer 3 set to 2 separate outputs with audio and MIDI tracks for both. And that's all it is. Currently it has no sounds loaded into it. And so what do you think we ought to do? Kick or snare first?
I think we should start with the kick drum. Let's augment the kick and maybe beef it up a little bit.
Okay, so we'll use the mixer channel, the mixer side here, since we're just really dealing with individual sounds. And I'm going to right click on the kick, and we're going to load an instrument, and we'll go into the various bass drums here. And there is a 909 in here that was recorded at the Roland Museum. This is a real 909, a pristine unit, and all of you Sonar Producer users have it. And we're going to go ahead and load it up. It's a 909 kick short. Sounds like that. Okay, little thumpy 909 kick. And should we go ahead, and you think we should go ahead and route this thing and get the sound going right away?
I think we should.
Okay, so it's routed out actually after a kick bus. Our track template actually had these buses baked into it. So when we brought this up, the kick routed to the kick and the snare routed into the drum bus, which is where we wanted it to go. Okay, so all that was done for us. That was a lot of work we would have had to sit here and do. It'd maybe take us 5 minutes or however long. It was done just by dragging this in, the SD3 drum augmentation device, or droid. And so it's all ready to go. It's in a separate folder. But now what we need to do is I want to double up the kick that we have with this 909 kick. And how do we do that?
Let's go back to AudioSnap.
Let's go back to AudioSnap. So we're going to take our kick track. We're going to turn on audio transients, okay? And this time, so we'll open up the AudioSnap palette. And should we use all of them?
Yeah, let's use all of them.
All of the transients.
Or maybe zoom in and we could dial it in a little bit.
Yeah, let's see, because this is an important part. You're never quite sure exactly how many of these kicks we want.
Yeah, because some of those kicks are going to be bleed from other tracks.
Yeah.
So maybe we should dial it in a little bit so it only kind of gets the obvious kick drums.
Yeah. So I think we want to do preserve these.
Yeah, we had some previously stretched markers in there.
So maybe we don't need even those. I think we just pretty much need those.
Yeah.
Right? Why are we still getting more?
Maybe no. Let's click no.
Ah, there we go. Okay. So see, we're all still learning. So this is pretty much the kicks that we want. I think that hits all the kicks that we want. You can see that it's this one and then the doubles and everything.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. Those small little waveforms that's definitely bleed. We don't need that.
And so now we can go in here and we can say, all right, well, let's vary with pulse level, because this will give us a MIDI level that will correspond to the audio level. So the bigger ones will get higher kicks and the smaller levels will get lower kicks, which is pretty cool. And then we say copy as MIDI. So let's drop our cursor first at the beginning. So this is an important step that a lot of people mess up. Put your cursor, when you copy as MIDI, the cursor needs to be in the same place as when you paste the MIDI.
Exactly.
Okay? So we're going to go ahead and say copy as MIDI. And then I'm going to scroll down, actually putting my cursor back here again. And we're going to go to the kick MIDI track, and I'm going to Control V, yeah?
Yep. So what we've done basically is converted audio into MIDI.
Right. Now it looks like it's late, but it's not, because the first kick actually happens here. If I had put my cursor at 5, then it would have happened here. So it pastes it where it is. It just doesn't add extra empty space. Empty space, right.
Yeah.
Right. Now going back up to this kick, I think we probably want to put this back to 0 again, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and we'll close that out. And then we don't need the audio transients on here. Put this back to clips again. So now we have a kick that matches the other kick, and it all goes out the kick bus. And let's just go ahead and listen to the kick bus real quick.
Yeah, let's make sure that MIDI is routed correctly. I think it may have pasted it
in
the wrong octave. We can just open up our PRV and change it real quick.
Of course. So double click that, brings up this into PRV. It put it as a tom, which we don't want it as a tom. So it's all selected. We'll hold shift to make sure that it all stays in exactly the same spot, right?
Yep.
And drag down to bass drum.
There it is.
And there it is. And let's take a listen. Okay.
So that's with the two kicks together. Why don't we jump in maybe to just the session drummer kick and kind of shape its sound a little bit.
Okay. So we'll go into the Pro channel, And okay, so we've actually got some stuff.
Oh,
on
in
here
fact,
which we
that's
don't
right,
want.
because we had everything tweaked out, and it saves all that.
Yeah,
in
It
the
saves
track
all
template.
that in the track template,
Yeah.
right? So we probably don't need a gate on this
No,
right now,
no.
and we probably we'll play around with the EQ, but let me see something here.
So there it
Okay,
is.
that's
There's
the,
the 99 just soloed,
that's the click.
soloed
Yeah.
out by itself.
Okay, so there's that. So what I think we should do with this is,
Select the audio tracks.
sorry, is let's go ahead and I think let's roll off a little.
Yeah, let's
high
roll
end
off
on
some
this
top.
thing.
It's kind of clicky.
It is a little.
Sounds
clicky.
a little clicky.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and just roll this off.
There we go. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah,
Because
that's
we
what
want to
we're
use
looking
this
for.
to add some thud and low end.
Right, and let's put the
to
compressor
kick.
afterwards. Should we put a
Yeah.
little tube saturation to this?
I
Might
think
be
we
kinda
should.
cool.
You know, and in fact, I think after we do this, I think we should go back and maybe gate it as well. Maybe at the end to kind of tighten it up a little bit.
Okay,
But let's see how it sounds.
let's
just
actually
see how it
insert
sounds.
that gate module now.
Yeah.
And why don't I hear it at all now? Oh, there we go. It's a little harder to hear in headphones what
Yep.
we're doing, but you can, big, add a little thump there. And maybe
Yeah.
should we? Or maybe we'll do the whole kick on the bus. Maybe
The sonic shaping.
yeah.
Sure.
Do you want to add any compression here? Maybe we should wait and do the
I
whole
think we should
kick
wait.
together.
I think we should
right.
wait. I think this here is really just to kind of filter out some of that top end
Yeah.
clickiness and
Yeah.
add a little tube sat.
And let's do
gate.
this. So on the actual kick, I'm thinking I'd rather use the low end of the 909
Yep.
and not the actual kick.
Yeah.
So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and actually suck out most of the low end of, of the original kick.
Yeah, that's a
So
good
listening
idea.
to this original kick, we just want just the kind of beater.
And in this way, we can kind of make a hybrid kick. Just the top end beater from the acoustic.
Right.
With that low end thud from the
But the
909.
low end of that, right?
Yep.
So that's kind of cool. So let's go down now to the kick bus and then
And,
shape the two together.
Okay, we might need to crank up sonar, but they're saying they can't hear the kick
Okay,
drum.
okay. Let's go ahead and let me just go. I thought maybe it'd be a little bit soft for people. So let's just go to our console and is that better for people?
Okay, that's good. That's
okay,
good.
okay. Sorry about that. Last time we overdid it, and this time we didn't do enough. So here we're on the kick bus, and
Much
so there's
better.
both of our kicks together. Okay, so let's go ahead and just shape these using the now the stuff that's on the bus. Okay, so we've shaped the 909 a little bit. We've shaped the other kick a little bit, but now let's put them together and just make one really badass kick. So maybe a little bit of tube, maybe. I mean, this is all to taste, however you want to do it. But let's actually replace this with the PC76. And maybe bring down the original kick a little bit.
Yeah.
A little more of that 909 that's in there. And I'd actually I want to bump this thing a little bit in the EQ.
Yep.
I think a little bit. And
Yeah,
let's
let's
actually
do
put
that.
the EQ before the compressor. And let's just go ahead and turn on the EQ. Let's just give it some low end at maybe around, I don't know, 40, 60, something like that.
That's a good range.
Just to give it some thump. Without. And my headphones obviously don't do as much. They're a little different doing this on speakers because you get a
Yeah.
little bit. Wouldn't recommend doing this on headphones.
Especially earbuds.
Yeah,
But, it is what it is.
I'm gonna get a little bit faster attack.
Yeah.
Real quick release. That's better, I think. That's a much tighter kick, don't you think?
Definitely.
Hopefully you out there hear that and it's sounding better to you than the original kick.
And what if we maybe right now, while this kick is kind of beefed up, what if we grab maybe our our room bus and kind of turned it down a little bit.
Yeah. So
and that way we can kind of hear that.
So maybe
kick.
on the room, and let's actually compress the room.
Yeah, let's do that.
So over here on the room mics, now here's an interesting trick for a lot of you. And on the room mics, we have the EQ, okay, and that's fine. But I'm going to replace this actually with the PC76 U-type compressor. A real trick that a lot of people do on room mics. This was kind of the famous sort of the Zeppelin sort of drum sound. Was in some cases was 76 with the all kind of this all button mode.
Right.
And just slammed to hell. So you can hear.
Just go to town. Just destroy it. You know.
I think short release. So without the Pro channel, without the compressor, so it adds kind of a lot of that, you know, that sort of stuff to it. It's a nice sound, and but I think for what we're going to do, I just want a little bit of that, and we'll kind of bring that down a little bit. But it adds a lot of that sort of kind of
let's unsolo the bus so they can hear it.
Crazy room sound.
You can still hear
that's nice.
The kick is still pretty dry though, and
it is
present.
It is exactly because we've rolled off that stuff
on
the. Yep. And then what do you think on the overhead? Should we do anything with those? Maybe compress them a little bit, or should we just send those to the parallel compression bus, which we're going to get into here?
Either way, I know we wanted to also add a second piece, a second drum augmentation.
Yes, we did.
Device, not a second device, but a second piece of audio to the device.
Yes.
To augment the snare.
So let's take snare top.
Yes.
And let's do the same thing we did before, and we're going to lift the groove out of this. Actually, we don't need our video window. We're going to lift the groove out of this. We're going to go to audio transients, and let's open up the AudioSnap. We don't want all the transients. We just want kind of those, right? And but we don't want them for this. Hope this doesn't mess up our other parts, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's good. That should be
that should be fine. Right there, and then what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, we want to move over to measure 4.
Yep, measure 4.
And we're going to say copy as MIDI. Great. And then we're going to go down to our snare MIDI part.
Yep.
And select that track and paste it in. And is that right?
Nope.
It's not right, is it?
Doesn't look right.
Why isn't it right?
Oh.
Snare top. Oh, because we have too many transients.
Aha.
Too many transients. You have to make sure you only get what you want, which is just those.
Yeah.
Just those probably. Yeah.
Yeah, except maybe the first one. There looks like we can always edit that out in MIDI though.
Right.
Yeah.
So so we'll just take those and we'll say copy as MIDI. And again, scroll down, measure 4. Snare MIDI, Control V, and what we can do is
just flip edit it.
Just get rid of this note.
Delete it, yeah.
Boop. And I don't know if that one's. I don't think we want that one either, do we?
Probably not. We need the
sound.
Get some sounds in there first, anyways.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we want to have a clap sound, and we're going to go get this from the Beatscape factory content, and so there's this little loop here, right? And I want to just grab one of these claps out of here. So let's just drop it in. Oops. Drop it into a track. And we will bounce it to a clip, yeah?
Yep, that'll turn it into a WAV file so we can work with it with AudioSnap.
Okay, so we will
bounce to clips.
Bounce to clip, thank you, Seth. And then we're going to go ahead and turn AudioSnap on here. And we're going to put the threshold all the way down so we have everything, right?
Yep.
And then we want to split So this allows you to split everything into multiple clips, okay? And then we just want this particular one. So we'll go back to clip view and just take this individual piece. I'm going to apply trimming so it's just that. And then we'll open up our session drummer again and drag this to here. And we got a cool clap, right? And then we don't need this track anymore, do we?
No, we can get rid of it, yeah.
So we'll delete it.
Just dump it.
And we'll see.
And we're going to need to edit the MIDI notes, of course, in the snare MIDI track.
Yep, right. So we'll select all these notes. I don't think we need this one.
Yeah, that's garbage.
For someone that's... Okay, and then we'll make sure we select them all. We'll hold Shift and drag it to there. Yeah?
There we go, yeah.
And probably the audio, why don't we hear it?
It's just quiet. We just need to give it a little gain.
Oh yeah.
So let's maybe throw some tube sat on it or something like that.
Okay. And let's just save. And so Seth, yeah, can you talk a little bit about just like drum replacement, just doing this kind of thing, like why you would cut things up and how you move it in and stuff like that?
Yeah. So basically, without grabbing the mouse here, so yeah, what we just did is of course drum replacement, and what you want to do is use AudioSnap, and it basically assigns those markers to the slices. You copy it as MIDI to a track, and then you can open up like any sample. It needs to be a WAV file to slice up the sample, or you can manually slice it yourself, but we like to use AudioSnap. It'll automatically slice it up on the transients. And what you need to do, this is kind of really important when you slice the file, if you're using AudioSnap to do it, is right-click on that clip and choose either Apply Trimming or Bounce to Clip. We just
otherwise you end up with
trimming.
the entire clip as a drum sound.
Because when you slice it up with AudioSnap, it still leaves those virtual areas under that have been slip edited.
Yeah. And there's a video on this actually on CakeTV.
There is, yeah, cakewalk.com/CakeTV. It's in the Go Deeper section. It's called AudioSnap Slicing and Sampling. So we've got all this step by step, but we want to do it here to kind of augment this this drum part.
Yep. So let's go ahead to this sound and let's just go ahead and just add a little compression to it. Just bring it up. We don't have a lot of time, so we kind of need to. But let's see here.
Maybe throw a little tube sat first thing.
There it is.
Yeah, just use a little tube.
Little regular tube.
Yeah. Kind of a nice little gain staging thing. It does add a little color, but it's kind of a cool, just add some gain, add some color. Real easy. There we go. And we can always, mix it in context. Maybe bring it down a little bit. It's a little hot.
And you notice we got that little tack tack.
Yep.
All the snares are right there.
I should point out too.
That's nice. That sounds cool.
Another really cool tip for this is if you select your MIDI track and hit the number keys on your keyboard, which actually we don't have because our keyboard's a miniature keyboard, you can then nudge the clip forwards or backwards if you want to offset it from the original sample to kind of tweak its timing. But we'll just leave it how it is. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
We should get into parallel compression.
We should. Let's jump right into parallel compression. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So this is when the drums are going to sound really good, and then we're going to have another guest in a moment before we wrap up.
Yeah.
So parallel compression. So parallel compression is when you basically, and this is one of the keys, often called New York compression also. Right. This is one of the keys to a giant drum sound. This is where you take uncompressed, because when you compress things, you do lose a little of that initial transient, but they get big. Parallel compression allows you to do both. So you get the initial transient and you get the sort of big compressed sound. How much you parallel compress and which things you parallel compress is totally a matter of taste, and I would recommend that you guys play around with this. But the advanced sort of routing and busing that Sonar has allows you to get pretty creative with parallel compression. So as you can see, we had created these parallel compression buses before. So what we want to do is send some things over to this bus. Let me just narrow these tracks so that I can see a little bit more. Don't need that Pro channel open. Let's just narrow this up. Okay, so let's do this. So we're going to use aux sends. So on the kick, we're going to right-click, and we're going to say, let's send this to the parallel compression bus, right?
Yeah.
Actually, we should probably do this on the bus.
We should for the
this
kick,
one,
yeah,
for this
because we
one.
want to send both.
So let's not do that. Okay, so so snare. So the ones we want here would be the hi-hat. Let's send this to the parallel compression bus. Okay, par comp.
Maybe we don't want to parallel compress the rides though.
I don't think so. I don't think so. The toms, we have a bus for that.
Yep.
Overheads, we can do that from the bus.
Yeah.
Rooms. Okay, so basically that's the only really thing we need from here.
Yeah.
So it's really a matter of the buses.
Yep.
So let's send the kick, really important, to the parallel compression bus.
And we could use
The snare.
we could use selecting.
Actually,
select and,
that's a great idea because we want all these into the parallel
Right.
compression bus, don't we?
Yeah.
So I'm going to just quick group these, hold Control, right click, and par comp, and it
boom.
puts them all
And,
over.
we
Sometimes
wanna
I
make-
forget to use quick grouping. It's such a
Yeah,
powerful feature.
It
and
is.
I forget.
It really is. It works with everything. In fact, it should also work with pre-post fader too. We could just change these to pre-fader sends with quick grouping as well.
Right. So hold. Now they're all pre-fader.
Yeah.
So that way we actually get separate level control of the overall the sound itself and how much we're sending to the parallel compression
Yeah.
bus. Okay.
And maybe the hi-hat too. Let's make that pre-fader as
All
well.
right, so the hi-hat as well. Okay. So now we can determine how much we sent to the parallel compression bus. But the first thing we need to do is actually set up the compression on the
Yeah.
parallel compressing bus.
Yeah.
And so let's go ahead and let's use the PC 4K bus compressor.
Let's do it. And before we start, do this again real quick. Parallel compression is basically just blending two buses, a heavily compressed bus
Right.
and an uncompressed bus. And
Right.
the reason why you want to do that is when you compress a drum bus heavily, what happens is you can lose some of the transient attack, but you do get kind of that nice, like crunchy, sort of thick compressed sound. Now, by blending that really heavily compressed bus and the non-compressed or lightly compressed, you kind of get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're going to work on the parallel compression bus.
And you know what?
now.
Right before we do this, let's like pan our hi-hat just a little bit.
Sure, sure.
So I like to. Some people mix from drummer perspective. Some mix from audience perspective. Personally, I like audience perspective.
sure.
So I'm going to just pan the hi-hat just a little bit right, maybe the ride a little bit left, and maybe we do our toms. And then you can get into this later, but just we'll just do a little bit of this right
Yeah.
now. Snare, I like to leave center.
Yep.
Kick, I like to leave center. Okay, so here's our compressor. Let's just get it kind of set up first. I'm going to set the just the audio fast attack since it's drum. Not too fast though, because there's a lot of drums. And so everything's sent to it. Now this is a thing where you got to you might have to go back and you're going to have to adjust how much is going to each parallel compression bus, how loud the parallel compression bus is. So let's just start playing with it.
Yeah,
and
let's
see
just
what we
solo
get.
it up and
Yep. Okay.
and just compress.
Sounds pretty cool already.
Maybe we can just take the threshold from no compression and just kind of pull it back so
So-
they can hear the change.
Nothing. You kind of, when you're doing parallel compression, you want to like slam it.
Yeah, you actually want it to sound not.
You want it
not
to
like
sound compressed,
Exactly,
you know,
like overly compressed.
Yeah.
I mean, you could even go more, but I mean, this is.
You could also mess with the release a little bit and get
Kind
even
of-
more compressed sound.
It's kind of a more like a pumping sound with a
Yeah.
shorter release.
And now maybe we'd like to take the rooms and maybe take the overheads and the rooms a little bit and just maybe not so much in the parallel
Sure.
compression bus.
Sure.
I don't know. And then of course we can determine whether how much if we want to tuck the drums down a little bit and have more compression, or maybe tuck the parallel compression down.
Yeah.
So here's to do this. Sorry. So together, everything sounds like this. That snare is really snappy now. Without the parallel compression bus. And you could either, some people would like a more compressed sound with less dry sound, or more dry with less compressed.
Yep.
I'm going to go with maybe a little less compressed and more dry.
Yep.
Let's bring our rooms down a little more.
Yeah, definitely.
See, this will tighten it up. Listen to that.
And someone actually asked earlier. This is perfect if you just let it roll. If you can hear me over the audio.
I can hear you.
Someone was asking earlier if you would put like reverb on a drum kit like this.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say that really you wouldn't, because what we're doing is using the room mics and even the overheads to some extent, but mainly the room mics
Great
kind
point.
of as the reverb.
Great point.
And that's really what you want to do when you're capturing live drums. This doesn't really maybe pertain to, you know, synth drums or drum machine or something.
Okay,
but
like
real drums, your room
like,
is your reverb.
Like the last thing you want to do is throw a reverb on a whole drum kit.
Yeah.
You know, unless you're going for a certain kind of thing, you know. But mainly, if you want that punch, you can't have reverb on a kick, really.
Right.
You know, and as Seth said, the room mics are really where you get that verb. Now, if the room isn't quite as big, or maybe you've got a drum kit that wasn't recorded in a room or what have you, well then you might want to, you could put one on an aux bus and maybe give a little bit on maybe the snare or a little bit on the hi-hat or something like that. But like, you know, here, that clap had reverb from the sample, which I think sounds kind of cool. And you could gate or transient shape it to get it right. Yeah. But, you know, listening to this, just take a listen. That doesn't really need reverb.
No, you've got that room sound in the snare and the overheads you can hear. So why don't we, before we get into our next special guest, why don't we throw a little compressor on the master drum bus?
Okay.
And kind of do a little overall drum compression.
Yeah, and you might also put a limiter there or something like that. Sure. So this is our final. So you'll notice as we're doing this, if I turn that bus down, that's all of our drums are on this master fader. So it's kind of a sub master just for drums. It's really nice way to organize things. And so what we'll do is open the Pro channel here, and you can also shape your parallel compression bus with some EQ. A lot of people do that to brighten it. I don't know if this necessarily needs it, but
or if we have time to do it.
So what we'll do is add just a little light compression on the final master. Just we'll set this to auto and just take a listen here. That's pretty nice. Without. And you could also add a limiter if you wanted. If you really want to slam them. Little concrete limiter. That actually sounds pretty good. So those drums are starting to sound like a record now. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And like we want, again, so much of this is due to taste and what you want. Maybe these wouldn't be the drums for, you know, a soft rock ballad or something, but they'd be great for like a more like a kind of rock pop modern type, you know. Some people are blending like kind of like R&B with rock kind of things. These would be great drums for
absolutely.
That kind of
or a lot of you know, kind of, you know, hip hop groups are using, maybe if they're using live drums, you get the sort of pseudo live, pseudo processed sound.
Yep. Because they're acoustic drums, but they start to get a
almost a sampled feel, but still live. You still got the live groove. You still got all the, you know, the real layers of velocity because it's all real.
Okay, so let's go to our next segment here real quick.
Yes.
So what we want to do is add some percussion to this. And yes, we could go grab loops and drag them in for percussion. But it's even better if you have maybe somebody that can do live, maybe live percussion. So
and we do.
And we do. So we have actually very lucky to have Mr. Steve Fisher here from Roland, and I have just dropped my headphone out. Hi, Steve. How you doing?
Good. How you doing, guys?
Doing
Steve.
great.
Welcome.
Awesome.
So Steve is sitting behind a drum kit and a percussion module, and this is the TD15KV, right?
Correct.
And tomorrow there will be actually a webinar on that kit. Then you're doing the demonstration, I believe, right?
Absolutely. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And what time is that tomorrow?
It's at 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. Same time as this, Pacific time.
Same time as this at rolandus.com/rug TV.
Okay. And so one of the cool things is, you know, we've been talking about having to fix some of the things because these drums are recorded with real mics in a barn and everything like that. A lot of people can't really maybe have a real kit in their houses, or, you know, they have to have a special room, drive the neighbors crazy, they've got kids, whatever. It's a little uncontrollable with all the mics you have to set up and everything. So that's the beauty of the V-drums, right? I mean, that you can have a great sounding kit in your own studio and have a consistent sound.
Absolutely, and of course you can use the audio from any of the sound modules, but of course you can also use USB. So for example, if we're going to do this project and I wanted to trigger the drums in session drummer 3, then I could just go USB out, bink, and have a great feeling controller to control those drums in there.
Right. Can you give us a little taste of what the, now these new V-drum kits have a supernatural sound, right?
Yes, actually all the drum sets that we launched this year, whether it's the TD11 module, the TD15, this one here, or the big TD30, it's powered by the new supernatural sound engine, which basically means a lot of expression, a lot of dynamics, you know, really a complete natural drumming experience.
Right, right. So it's not sounding sort of like static samples. Not that the old ones did, but more so you get all of that expression and everything that a player like yourself would want, yeah.
And a lot of playability. Want to hear it?
Yeah. Give us a taste
Absolutely.
of what it sounds like. Wow.
Super dynamic,
Wow.
super sensitive. It's amazing. All the sounds, it's going to be great tomorrow at 2 o'clock, so definitely tune in.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Awesome stuff, Steve.
So, but since we already have drums here, and we've been doing a lot of that, we were thinking maybe some percussion would be nice. And so you have a nice rolling device over there that actually has particularly good percussion stuff in it, yeah?
It does. The SPD30 is a great device. It's got 670 percussion sound. Oops.
Is your mic on?
There we go.
There we go.
Are we,
yeah.
Am I on?
Yeah, yes.
Are we
you
live?
Now. You are now.
No, the SPD30 actually has 670 great percussion sounds, really authentic world percussion sounds. I mean, you'd have to go to some pretty serious sample libraries to get some of these percussion sounds in here. But the other thing, you were talking about drum input and things like that, is that not only do you have the 8 pads here, but it has 4 dual trigger inputs. So I can actually have a kick drum pedal, a snare drum, a ride cymbal, a hi-hat. So I can make a little small mini kit to play drum grooves or actually trigger drum sounds as well.
And that's one of the things I thought the SPD30, I was thinking about getting one for my own studio. I thought that it's so perfect because if you don't have even, like I don't even have room for even a TD kit, but unless I maybe kick the kit out of the house. But
there goes your tax deduction.
Yeah, I know. But the SPD with the you know, a hi-hat and a kick pedal and everything is really basically like a very small contained drum kit. You get that real, you know, feel. And also you could use the pads to do things like trigger the matrix and on all those kinds of things. So sample triggering and stuff. So I think that's a great companion for a lot of sonar users, something like an SPD30. I've been thinking about one in my own studio actually.
Even no matter how many guys sit there with their keyboard controllers and try to play in drums doing that way.
Nothing like sticks, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's a great tool.
So, so Steve's going to lay down some percussion parts for us. So what I'm going to do is just insert a track here in Sonar, and we'll call this Perk. And we'll go over here, and we're going to set the inputs. We pick our octacapture. I've actually named it SPD30, so it's stereo SPD30 on the percussion track. And if I just go ahead and monitor him and hit record, can we just make sure we have some sound coming in there? Okay, and there it is. So we're going right into the octacapture, right on a track here, and I could save that as a track template or something if I wanted to. And we're just going to do a couple of percussion parts that then Seth and I can use to kind of flesh this out a little bit, since we just have drums. And again, going and getting canned loops and stuff, it's great. You know, you can do it. Sometimes they work. If you edit them, you can do great things. But if you have something like that, and you can play drums, or in this case, we have a drummer. You know, every element you add, I think, that's actually played by a human being makes the music sound that much more organic and better. So let's do it. So you're just going to get a just a click. See, metronome during record we don't want, but we're just going to get the 1 measure count in. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to set a 4-bar area. What am I doing here? 4-bar area. So I've clicked my punch points, set punch points to the selection, 4 bars, and I think we're ready to go, yeah?
Yeah, let's roll it.
Here we go. We'll do 2 passes. All right, so there's our first pass. Let me just let the users hear that real quick, the viewers. Turn that up a little bit. Oh, hold on a second. Okay, so we got our shaker and stuff there, right? And let's do another pass, all right? So I'm going to let you hear that while you play the next one, okay? Good? All right, here we go. Cool, so we got like some kind of ethnic percussion there. So I'll go ahead and just turn on layers so we can see both the parts, and I'll just solo these out so we can hear them together. Cool, so we've got a little layered part there right from the SPD30. So tomorrow at 2 o'clock.
That is correct. Tomorrow at 2 o'clock.
All right, thank you, Steve. Appreciate
You bet,
it.
guys.
We'll look
Thanks,
forward to
Steve.
seeing you tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right, so now we've got a couple percussion parts there, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to arrange those a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think we'll do that using the Matrix.
Let's do that.
So here we get into a part where we've pretty much got the drums we want. We've pretty much got things a lot laid out. Where's this ride cymbal section? I just want to see real quick. Okay, so we're going to go just arrange this about up to here. So just to show you what you guys can kind of do after the fact, after you've got these drums created, let's just add in like a little bit of bass and piano. And we're not going to make a whole song out of this because this is really about drum production, and maybe we'll leave that to one of the next webinars to actually build off of this. But just to give you a taste of what it's like after we have these drums in here and what you can do with the Matrix for drums and other parts. We're going to bring up the Matrix view. So Matrix view, and we'll go ahead and just make that a little smaller. And let's go ahead and grab a couple of loops here. And let's see, we've got where's our audio library? Loops. So we've got a bass and piano loop we want to work with, and we could play these in, but for our purposes, we don't have a whole lot of time. Let's just go ahead and use these. So there's our bass part, okay? And should we groove match this thing, do you think?
Yeah, if we've got time.
Okay, do we have time? I don't know if we should.
All right, well, let's just throw them in the
Okay,
Matrix.
let's just do it. I think we've got it. We could groove match these things, but I don't think we have a whole lot of time. So bass, and let's grab these, let's grab the first, what do we do? I think we'll take the first, maybe the first percussion part, right? So we're going to take record 1 and just drag it right into the Matrix right there, okay? And let's go ahead and create a bass track real quick. So I'm going to insert an audio track. We're going to call it bass, and we'll route this out to this bass track. And we have our percussion right here, so we have a percussion track, okay? And let's go ahead and add another track for this little piano part. So we'll insert an audio track, and we'll call this piano. Yep. Everything okay?
Yep.
Piano. And go ahead and drag this piano loop down here, okay? And make sure that routes out piano. So then I'm just going to copy the kick over here, this first percussion track, and then we'll duplicate this column and take this second percussion track and put it down here. So what we end up with is, let's make sure these are all going out the right outputs, percussion, percussion. And just on the bass track, did we get okay, and let me just turn this off and turn this off so we're not monitoring anymore. And let's see what we have here. Okay, and we could probably set this to, should we leave it at measure, you think?
Sure, why not?
Okay, and let's go back to the beginning, turn off punch, and
maybe we want to mute these two layers too, and also
Yeah.
we had a quick question coming in asking how we copied the matrix cells. So all you have to do is hold Control, grab it with your mouse, move it over, and it'll copy it right over.
Yep, yep, yep. For some reason, I'm not getting the beginning of that.
It's because it starts at measure 4. It's looking for the timing to start at measure 1.
I see.
So
I see.
yeah, we'll just roll through it.
So we'll start
We're
at,
start at measure 1.
Yeah, we start at measure 1,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Do a little intro.
Yeah, we'll do a little intro. Let me just save this real quick, and we'll go ahead and say, we want to record the matrix, right?
Yep, yep.
And on the bass part, let's just make sure it's not too loud. Let's just add a little bit of
Transport.
yeah. Let me just. That's probably all we need to do is just add a slight bit of compression to it. just to tame it a little bit.
Yep.
And you might EQ that and stuff and everything, but you know.
And no, the Matrix View did not replace Star Wars.
No, it did not. Okay.
Someone commented.
Okay, so we're going to record the matrix. Now, I'm going to also set these to the pads. So MIDI learn A1,
Yep.
MIDI learn 2, MIDI learn 3.
Maybe we should create a blank MIDI track, like a Matrix trigger track.
Yeah,
This is kind
we
of
talked about that last time.
a cool inside tip. We did talk about it last time. This will route the MIDI to nothing, basically, so you don't trigger any other soft synths by accident.
Yeah, and we have SD3 open, and that was playing kick and snare there.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just scroll down a little bit so we can see what we're doing.
Yep.
Go ahead and save this the way it is, and I think we're good to go, right?
Yeah.
Everything's recording,
Yeah.
and we'll go ahead and set this to start, and we'll hit play.
Yeah.
Okay, and there it lays out all the parts that we've got, and we could go back and edit any of those things that we want. Let me go ahead and just disable these here real quickly. Turn off Matrix, and just play a little bit of this back. So that's how you can basically start throwing in other loops and other instrumental parts and building up, beyond these. And we didn't want to spend a lot of time on, bass and piano and all that stuff because it's really a drum production webinar. But just to give you an idea of how things can start to sound, we've got great sounding drums right from the beginning. Any other questions you want to answer before we end this now almost 2-hour webinar?
Someone wanted to see the PC2A on the bass. Maybe we could just throw it in real quick.
Real quickly, we'll just do that.
So this is one of our optional Pro Channel modules, the PC2A.
So let's replace this with the PC2A leveler. And let's just solo this out. This thing can do just right away. You get a little drum in there for some reason. I don't know why. I got something layered on, but
must be
I think I have something on top of something else.
Yeah,
It's okay. It actually works great. PC2 actually works great for bass because the peak reduction is just so smooth.
Yeah.
It works really nicely. Also for vocals as well.
Yeah, and we've got another question coming in that's been asked a few times. If you can freeze a bus. Of course, the answer is no, you can't freeze a bus because there's no audio technically on buses. But what you can do is bounce down to a track within the project, or of course export audio and bring it in that way.
Yeah, if you go to File, Export Audio, you can actually pick buses, and you could just pick the bus you want. So you could just say, well, I just this, maybe just the overheads or something, or I just want the kick. And you could export that out, and that would be your kick. And so and you could just import that to a track and just kill everything on that bus. So it's a little bit roundabout, but it achieves the same thing.
Cool. Okay. Well, yeah, that's pretty much all we've got.
Okay.
No other
so we only went twice as
in.
long as we were supposed to.
Yeah, next time it'll be 4 hours.
Next time it'll be 4 hours. Okay, well, I hope this was helpful to all of you out there. And again, we appreciate you watching the webinars. And again, this will be up on our YouTube channel and on CakeTV live channel on CakeTV. So you'll be able to watch the whole thing offline and go back and pick out any mistakes or anything like that. And so again, check out the first class upgrade promotion if you're in the in a position to upgrade your sonar. If you aren't a sonar user yet, check that out, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.